Saturday Night If You Can. What the fuck, Gary? Fuck you. Oh shit, that was recorded. Alright. God, schedule for Saturday night. Sorry, buddy. I work. Ooh. Okay. Welcome to another episode of the Super Movie Studies Podcast, a show about show about comic book movies approached from every angle and a community of nerds discussing how fiction relates to nonfiction. I'm your comic book culture host, Michael Maurer, joined by the movie maestro,
James Schuyler Houtsma,
and our scientific scholar,
Grant Austin. SMSP is your premier movie discussion podcast. Every week we continue our journey exploring our favorite subject, superhero movies. Every fan sees the movies differently, so we gather some amateur experts to discuss certain aspects of the movie.
Whether it's money, comic books, music, science, or superpowers, SMSP talks about it all in this week's episode, X-Men Apocalypse. And yes, there will be spoilers.
I don't want to start this first opinions. Please. Popcorn, someone, not me.
Okay, I will take the burden on to myself. X-Men Apocalypse is superficial, we'll say that. It's not nearly as thematically deep as First Class or Days of Future Past, but at the same time I feel like it's one of the most fun X-Men movies to watch. This year we've had 2 superhero movies in a time frame that told us, it's bad to like superhero action. Shame on you, all the death and casualty. And this one comes along and it's like, let's just do what we want. And that was kind of fun to watch. And I enjoy that it got closer, I think, thematically to what an X-Men movie should look and sound like. Popcorn Grant?
Okay, so I enjoyed the movie a lot. I thought it had a lot of good things going for it, a lot of good action scenes. I thought the humor in it was right on point, not too much, and it wasn't just stupid puns the whole time. You're right, though, it was a little superficial. There wasn't a whole lot of deep plot elements going on, but it was what I wanted it to be, I think, so I quite enjoyed it the first time I saw it. I really enjoyed some of the newer cast members, like Jean Grey. So, yeah, that's what I thought of the movie. Popcorn, Maurer.
X-Men Apocalypse. I was in a bad place to go and see this movie, because I have officially reached, superhero fatigue. Alright, we've already had, as you said, Schuyler, 2, not 1, but 2 comic book movies totaling over 120 minutes each, probably close to 150 minutes each, and now you're giving me a third one. And the entire time in this movie I'm going, yeah, this is good, but I can't do this. I need to get out of here. I need this movie to be done, because all it's going to do is ruin my opinion of it, because I'm just so tired of sitting through these long ensemble movies about giant casts fighting this big evil villain. But I gotta say, the one thing that X-Men usually, I don't know if it's X-Men that usually has problems, more Marvel movies, is third act problems. X-Men did not have it. I was very satisfied with this ending. This whole time I'm like, how are they going to beat Apocalypse? Right? Like, this dude is like the uber god, the ubermensch of mutant kind. He is invincible, immortal. What do you use against a guy like that? Oh, did you know we were establishing the Phoenix? Well, yeah, I get that, but I feel as if you're just going to do what every comic book movie has done before you about that and just sort of hide it until the next movie and not really bring it out. No, we're going to bring it out. Oh, fuck. Oh, all right. Yeah, I believe this. This is totally how this would happen. Gotcha. All right, I'm on board. When's the next one? I'm ready. That was my entire thought process through X-Men Apocalypse. Uh,
I get what you're saying about how Apocalypse has that pretty cliched end the world plot that basically every superhero movie in recent memory has touched upon. But I thought they did a really great job in just establishing how fearsome and unbeatable this character could be, and that every time he was on screen, it was like, oh, is he going to say an awesome monologue? Yes, he is. This is great.
It's just like that quiet, oh, I'm so disappointed with this world. I will make it better. But it's like it hurts him to say shit like that, because he's like, oh, work. Everything is so beneath me.
Although I must say, I was really distracted because with the makeup, he looked a lot like Johnny Depp. And I couldn't get that out of my head the first time I saw it.
Oh, no. The one caveat, or is caveat the right word, I have with this film, way too many characters that were just not touched upon. Mostly just the Horsemen, alright? The Horsemen were all shoo-ins with the exception of Magneto. Magneto was the only one to really get a scene. But we already knew he hated humans, and yet you give us probably the best scene in the movie with Magneto at the center of it, where we find out that his daughter is a Disney princess.
Quite literally. Yeah, oh man. I know what you're saying about characters being just kind of sidelined, especially Mystique, who Jennifer Lawrence just does not want to be involved with this shit anymore. And
I don't want her to be involved with this shit anymore. Holy crap, just take her out of the movie.
If she's going to phone it in like this movie, yeah.
For real. I was so distracted with that.
Yeah. Magneto has, the best emotional scene in the movie, but it feels like every other emotional beat was a direct flashback to First Class. Like, hey, remember this really awesome, affecting scene from 2 movies ago? Yeah, just keep that in mind while we don't replicate that.
And yes, Mystique, gone. I don't get how you're trying to make her this messiah, and J-Law is just sort of walking around and sleepwalking through this entire film. And you're better than that. I know you are. And what was the other big thing? Oh, fuck. God. Ah, damn it. I had something. This is fucking pissing me off when I get to a spot and I don't fucking remember a damn thing I thought of 10 seconds ago, and now my brain hurts.
Character related?
Probably. Fuck, it's not there. I'm not there.
I understand.
Don't worry, this will all get edited out. Perhaps I'll think of it later. Almost had it, I think. Something to do with how it was about First Class. Oh, yes! Here we go. What was Moira McTaggart doing in this film at all?
Oh, seriously. I mean, to be honest, what's Moira McTaggart doing in any of these movies? She just kind of shows up to do exposition and then tags along for the ultimate mission, but sits in the plane the whole time?
Yeah! First Class was the same way, but at least, like, First Class, she was this, like, important liaison between mutant kind and the government, which hadn't been established before.
In this one, it was really just, she was there for a weak love story between her and Charles Xavier, but, like, very played out, and so it just kind of seemed not very interesting, and they could have just done without it. And probably made the movie better.
They made her a dumb bimbo. It was insulting.
Don't speak.
Oh my god. And like, okay, if you're gonna include her, you gotta freaking bring back her memories before the end of the show. You cannot have this absolutely mindless person wandering around, and she caused the problem. Honestly, if Moira McTaggart was not involved in this film, we wouldn't even have Apocalypse.
Seriously, the fuck, Mora?
Uh,
She's just like a balloon that one character is carrying around through the whole movie.
pretty much. And it's almost insulting. Not even for me, but just like that a character would be written so placidly that was fleshed out before and just wiped like a white slate and left that way. It was stupid.
Oh man.
What about, just real quick before we get into money, that Wolverine cameo? Huh? I don't know.
A little shoehorned in.
A little bit, but I mean they kept him there long enough where I was like, I guess this is kind of important.
Yeah, they honestly could have just taken the whole Weapon X or Alkali Lake scene out and had a 2-hour movie, and that might have played a little better.
Yeah.
It's cool that they touched upon it and kind of finally portrayed that berserker Wolverine that we've seen in the comics, but I don't know.
Well, how are you going to have an X-Men movie without Wolverine?
Seriously, you're left with First Class, which is like the best X-Men movie.
Possibly. Yeah. Well, speaking of comparing X-Men movies, let's talk about money.
Yeah, the only thing that matters.
Production budget, $178 million. We're getting real close to that average of $200 million for big Hollywood movies.
Although that's also a really oddly specific number for this
Yeah.
movie. Maybe it got like some tax incentives or whatnot. Who knows? So on a budget of $178 million, just a slight bit less than your average movie, it has so far brought in $154.5 million. For those of you at home, that is less than its budget.
Well, that's domestically, sure, but that's not that great.
No, it's not. Can it be redeemed by its foreign gross? Let's see, $380.7 million for a grand worldwide total of $535.3 million. It's still in theaters too, so it could bring in additional pocket change at this point. That is a fair amount above the international blockbuster cutoff point, so good for it. But how does it compare to the rest of X-Men and this year's movies?
Those are not X-Men numbers.
No. Let's see here. It has underperformed in the U.S. Let's just say that. It has yet to beat the original X-Men movie from 2000. Keep in mind, in the United States, which is at $157 million. Its worldwide cume is third behind Days of Future Past and Deadpool, which is at number 1. It opened the same weekend as Days of Future Past, Memorial Day weekend, but 30% lower. That one opened $90 million versus the $65 million opening, not counting the actual Memorial Day itself, that Monday. It dropped 65% in its second weekend, which is pretty bad. Not a Batman versus Superman drop of like 72%, but
pretty close.
Probably not what they were hoping for. All of this, keep in mind, and it has the highest theater count of any X-Men movie ever at about 4,100.
They had big hopes for this movie. I had big hopes for this movie. But I think America is done with big superhero action flicks for a little bit.
Well, I remember you saying back when we had one of our mailbag episodes that you thought this was going to be the biggest superhero movie of 2016. Mm-hmm. And I could have seen it happening. I could have seen it making $300 million if people had just not gotten sick of it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like, Batman Superman sort of ruined the playing field for a while. Because everyone had... I mean, if Batman Superman had done well, and if Marvel Civil War was actually an eventful film, by eventful I mean something happened that you would take away from it.
Right, like if people left the theater saying Captain America died or Iron Man died, people would still be talking about it.
Yeah. Instead, we were just like, I just sat through 2.5 hours of just people punching each other, and it was kind of fun. But at the same time, like, I'm good with that sort of entertainment for a while. And then X-Men comes around, and it's just like the X-Men. you're playing off First Class, and so many people still have yet to see First Class. I went to it with a friend who's just like, I saw Days of Future Past, but I didn't see First Class. And I'm like, you kind of need to have seen First Class for this film.
It's definitely the Batman Begins effect with that one. It's like, everyone sees the second one, not so much the first one. Yeah, I don't know how much stock I put into the superhero fatigue, especially since we're approaching another quote-unquote superhero movie that's supposed to open enormously, but it feels like if you're going to have so many of these movies in the same year, you need to differentiate them.
Mm-hmm.
Show them something, they haven't seen 2 months before. And maybe this one didn't do it.
Yeah, this was Civil War. Pretty kind of, in just a different X-Men Civil War, because it was mutants fighting mutants.
It really was. I will give this movie this. I find the characters in this series a lot more relatable and interesting, even when they're just sidelined off to the side, than I do the ones in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, it's all preference.
Yep,
But talking of characters, it's an X-Men movie.
Rapid fire!
Rapid fire comic book section time. Because I've got a lot to say about a very few amount of characters. So who should I start with? Someone important? No. Let's go to the opposite end. The most insignificant character to grace herself in this film, Jubilee.
This hurts for us 90s kids.
Oh, yes. Jubilee, she's kind of a lame X-Men, but she's a fan favorite among few. Few and the proud. But she
Marines.
shows up. Yes. She shows up in this movie as just like a posse member, but dressed in full 80s regalia, yellow jacket, sunglasses. But we don't ever see her use her powers, do we? Or did I fall asleep?
No, she showed up to introduce Scott, and then they went to Return of the Jedi, and that was pretty much it.
Lame. All right. So, Jubilee premiere, I'm still going to discuss it, because this is the most Jubilee we're going to see, because she had cameos in all 3 of the first X-Men films, but if you remember that, you're a better memory than me. So she premieres in Uncanny X-Men number 244, 1989. Chris Claremont, the man behind X-Men for the past, 40 years, and Mark Silvestri. Born to 2 Chinese immigrant parents, Jubilation Lee was a talented gymnast with hopes of joining the Olympics, when suddenly she became an orphan because hitmen took out both of her parents. She managed to survive that and hide in a mall in LA, stealing food when necessary, and using her powers of emitting explosive plasmoids, or, let's face it, fireworks, to evade security and entertain mall goers for cash. A mercenary group is hired to oust her, and she is rescued by an all-female squad of X-Men, beginning her long career with the team. She has been a member of multiple teams, depowered, sort of augmentedly repowered, and then even turned into a vampire by Dracula's son. Jubilee.
As one does all those things.
As an X-Men, yes. Another character that needlessly became an orphan. Most mutant kids are abandoned, actually. Speaking of which, next character, Magda Eisenhart / Magna Lencher. Magda. I'm saying Magna. You know this as Magneto's wife, or the mother of both Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. I mean, we saw her in Days of Future Past, and she said a line or two, but this is the moment where I'm going to talk about her. Because she premiered in Avengers number 186, 1979. David Michelin, Mark Grunwald, Stephen Grant, and John Byrne. Magda was a gypsy woman sent to Auschwitz during the Holocaust. Her and Magneto, Max Eisenhardt, found each other and fell in love. After both escaping the concentration camp, they moved to a mountain village and began a family with a daughter named Anya. Sound familiar? Except daughter was named Nina in the film. This is when he ditched his Jewish name of Max Eisenhardt, Magneto that is, and began going by Eric Lenscher. So this is kind of the confusing thing of why he's sort of known by both names. Born Max Eisenhardt, but ever since this moment has been referred to as Eric. They were staying at an inn one night when it caught on fire. Everyone got out except Anya was trapped inside. Eric tried to, run in, rescue her, and free her, but men held him back to try and save his life. And so, in that sort of fit of emotional rage, his powers manifested of magnetism. Not in the dramatic scene that we see like in every X-Men film of Magneto pulling that fence in the concentration camp, which is honestly probably a better time to have your powers manifested more dramatically. But this is when the comic books did it. And in his blind rage of his daughter dying, he murders all the people around him that were holding him back. Magda sees this and is so terrified by what she saw that she fled from him. Later we find out that she was pregnant with twins, his twins, Wanda and Pietro, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, and she gives birth to them on a different mountain village, and becomes overwhelmed with fear. I haven't read her whole thought process and what happens in this comic book, but after she gives birth to them, she walks out into the middle of a blizzard and presumably perishes, never to be seen again, leaving her children to be raised by other people. Yay.
Cheery Disney story for us all.
A bit better in X-Men because she's just sort of a single mother struggling. And they're not twins in the X-Men universe. The Scarlet Witch is much the younger sister of Peter, not Pietro.
I like how they've also just pretty much axed her from the picture and kept the Quicksilver because, Marvel Scarlet Witch is good and X-Men Quicksilver is good. And we don't need to talk about anything else.
Don't want to cross things over. Make things confusing. Now we have Caliban. Again, speaking of confusing, because if you remember, Caliban actually premiered in the X-Men movies of Last Stand. That's right. I think that was Caliban, or was she called Callisto? I forget. But she could run around at super speed and detect mutants, and it was all just a mess.
It was Callisto, or Calypso.
She had the powers of Caliban as the thing, as well as the powers of Quicksilver, because they just started mushing things together to fit their needs. Caliban, though, who we saw, who spoke in the third person throughout all of this film, premiered in Uncanny X-Men number 148, 1981, Chris Claremont, Dave Cockrum. Caliban was born with his grotesque features and pale skin, and that's why his father named him after the disfigured character in Shakespeare's The Tempest. Bummer move, Dad. It was a hard life growing up for Caliban, but soon he found the Morlocks, the sewer-dwelling mutants, all with distinguishable physical appearances due to their mutation, so they couldn't live on the surface world without being persecuted. He became sort of a recruiter, being that his mutant ability is detecting other mutants. After a brief time on the X-Men team, he was kidnapped by Apocalypse and worked into an agreement to become one of his horsemen as the Hellhound. After that debacle was over, he eventually wound up on more missions with the X-Men until biting a bullet for the X-Man Warpath. Which is kind of ironic that Caliban did not become a horseman in this one.
Seriously. Caliban knows this.
Instead, this character becomes a horseman for no frickin' reason. Psylocke, premiered in Captain Britain number 8, 1976, Chris Claremont, Herb Trimp. Psylocke has got to be in the top 12, top 10 most confusing characters ever in this day and age. All right, probably wasn't confusing when she was created, because Elizabeth Betsy Braddock is the twin sister of Brian Braddock, aka Captain Britain, the UK's premier super mutant. Basically, kind of sort of Superman, but wears the Union Jack all over his body. She develops telepathic powers at the age of 16. After that, her life gets all kinds of fucked up. Alright, here are some examples. Betsy had a lover named Tom Lennox. She was inside of his mind when he sacrificed himself to save her, feeling his death. That's one. I'm sorry you had to go through that, Betsy. And an alternate reality version of her brother replaces him without anyone's knowledge and tries to rape her, and in self-defense, she mind murders him.
That's also a little bad. Things are not looking up.
Yeah. Let's keep going. Abducted into a different world obsessed with reality TV, known as the Mojoverse, her eyes are gouged out and replaced with cybernetic ones. This is where she's first called Psylocke, by the way, as the kind of title of her new TV show. But she gets rescued from that, only to lose her memory and falls into the care of the Hand. Remember those guys? The Daredevil ninjas? Learning of her telepathic powers, a member of the Hand tries to use her to restore his brain-dead lover's mind. Brain-dead girl is called Kawanan. Instead, though, their minds merge, getting all mixed up, and half of each goes into both bodies, as well as each body gets half of the other's traits, so that they look the exact same now.
Psylocke is having a serious case of the 90s.
Oh, yes, she is. So Betsy is now the Hand's top assassin under the name Lady Mandarin. She has half the memories of her amnesiac self and half of Kawanan's ninja personality, all resting inside this Japanese/British body. Oh, and that second body I neglected to talk about earlier, that's the exact same as hers, inside and out, shows up and starts claiming that she's the real Psylocke, and nobody can really say otherwise, because both of them have the same memories and physical appearance. So now both of them are hanging out with the X-Men, which is weird. When the clone died, though, of a mutant virus, the other half of Betsy's personalities and telepathic powers come flooding back to her. So all was much better for Psylocke. Granted, she can get through all of the shit she's been through.
I'm so glad the X-Men could have their own version of the Clone Saga from Spider-Man, because that wasn't confusing and convoluted in itself.
I hope you all understood that explanation, because I had to reread so much crap to just be able to give that information to you, and I don't even think I'm 100% correct, because there's like 30, 50 comic books that dedicate themselves to this entire tale. Oh, by the way, Psylocke can manifest psychic knives, which is pretty cool.
Also, if you haven't seen in this movie, don't expect any of that. Just expect the psychic knife part.
Yep. As well as, what is her motive? Why is she hanging out with Caliban? I don't know anything about Psylocke.
And then about halfway through the movie, she's in her, little get-up standing in Auschwitz, and it's really awkward.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing, too, is... So Angel and Storm are the other two horsemen. We're not even going to talk about Magneto. He's fine. All right, he's all set. But Angel and Storm are just two persecuted kids. someone comes by and grants them power to not be persecuted anymore. Okay, great. Yeah, I could see how some kids want that deal. And then when someone says there's a better way, they switch sides, all right, because they're conflicted teenagers. Psylocke is a full-grown woman. We don't know the shit she's been through. And then she just sort of kind of leaves when there's a chance to switch sides. And we don't know why. Also, Storm, Angel, and Magneto get these like super cool kind of beefed out body armor sort of outfits when they power up. Psylocke manages to get less clothes.
Yeah, maybe the one instance where sticking to the comic accurate costume might be a little ill-advised.
Yeah, because Psylocke is just super hot ninja girl. Hot chick who knows karate archetype. Alright, let's get to that last character. The big kahuna. Apocalypse. Apocalypse.
Ensabanur.
X Factor, number 6, 1986. Luis Simonson, and somebody help me with this man's last name. Jackson Guice? Gucci?
East?
Guice? Guessi? En Sabanur was born in ancient Egypt and abandoned because of his appearance of gray skin and blue lips. Sounds like a common X-Men motif. He was saved by a man named Baal of the Sandstormers, who feels the potential power of the child. The Sandstormers live by the credo, survival of the fittest. So now young En Sabanur takes that to heart, and that kind of becomes his life philosophy. But now, things get complicated, as usually they do. A time traveler named Kang the Conqueror, knowing full well what En Sabanur will become in the future, assumes the role of Pharaoh of Egypt and orders En Saba's assassination. Mr. Nur survives, while the rest of his clansmen do not. But Baal manages to give En Saba some super advanced alien technology before he dies. He travels into the city, disguised as a drifter, and wouldn't you know, he falls in love with the little sister of General Ozymandias. But as soon as she sees his real face, she is disgusted by what she sees and terrified of his true form. And in this rejection, En Saba's mutant powers kick in and he kills everyone, donning the name Apocalypse. All I need to show is these mutants a little love, okay? And they will stop murdering people. His powers, combined with the so-labeled celestial technology, make him practically invincible and immortal, as he travels across the earth appearing as a deity in many cultures. He randomly takes naps of suspended animation to preserve his strength and avoid his time-traveling foes, because he always manages to wake up before they time travel to kill him in his sleep. I'll get to an example. His main nemesis is a mutant named Cable, Cyclops' son, genetically engineered to fight Apocalypse. Knowing this, Big A infects him with a techno-organic virus where the only known cure exists in the 39th century, so little Nathan Summers, baby Cable, is raised in the future under the evil mutant's draconian reign until eventually Cable comes back in time to stop all this from happening by attacking Apocalypse in his sleep. But his trip back in time triggers Apocalypse to wake up early. Now, with Cable in the picture, Apocalypse enacts various plots of world domination that get pretty close, but time travel manages to usually rectify them.
So, earlier you said that Apocalypse killed everyone after, he was rejected and whatnot. What exactly are his powers?
Oh, thank you so much for asking. Because in the movie, you probably can't really tell. Oh, in the movie, they explain it as he has the powers of every body he reincarnates into. Okay? Yeah, I get it. That makes sense. Here's an actual quote of Apocalypse's power set from the Wikipedia article, or the Wikipedia page on him, which is just too good. So what? This guy's like Mr. Fantastic on steroids? Yeah, his powers have always been sort of nebulous, but as long as he's cutting through X-Men teams like Kirstie Alley through Sizzler, I don't think the fans care. Frank Thierry, interview about X-Men Apocalypse versus Dracula. Holy shit, that's so good. As long as he's cutting through Sizzlers like Kirstie Alley. Sorry, cutting through X-Men teams like Kirstie Alley through Sizzlers. If you don't know who Kirstie Alley is, that's Jenny Craig.
Yes. A bit of a dated reference, but for those of you still old enough to understand, it's great.
That's a great joke. I'm sorry, at the expense of Kirstie Alley. But his powers never make sense. All right, he's just got whatever fits the writer to make him intimidating, because he's just this character that gets thrown in every once in a while to symbolize shit's getting real. All right, get fucking prepared.
For anything, apparently.
Mm-hmm. So I'm done with comics. Let's move on to music. Freaking X-Men crap. Jeez.
All right, getting prepared for anything music-wise. X-Men Apocalypse score is written by John Ottman, returning from his work on both X-Men 2 and Days of Future Past. He's done the Fantastic Four movies. We've talked about him before. So far this year, being late summer, whatnot, I would say so far that the score for X-Men Apocalypse is probably the best musical score of any summer movie I've seen thus far. And that's because it just... Whereas before the X-Men movies, you know, they were superhero scores, you know, whatever. This time it really kicked it up a notch with the movie. Added a lot of elements to it. Big, booming choir, bombastic villains theme. It's a lot of great stuff going on. And I think the best example of that is the opening of the movie, the track called The Transference, when Apocalypse is ultimately betrayed. It really sets the tone for what you're going to hear for the rest of the movie, and it is awesome. Let's take a listen.
Whew, I tell you what, I've been in big ensemble choirs before. I am so jealous of what is going on in this song, because I just want to be a part of it. I'm like, what are the words? I want to be in this group so bad.
I can only imagine how many people they have in the choir going on here, but it's, you know, wow, what a way to start your movie off. I'd say that's a major good musical foot to first
Yeah,
step.
it is.
Yeah.
Well, question, do you know what they're saying? Is that Egyptian?
There's not a lot of info on it, so I haven't read what basis they're saying. I would imagine it's either Sanskrit, Egyptian. What was the other one? Yeah, some Eastern-sounding language.
Sorry, I'm trying to find if the YouTube comments have anything, and it does not look like anybody knows anything. They just keep saying no more stones, no more spears a lot.
Well, maybe that's what they're saying. Maybe that is what they're saying.
It's possible.
It
All
is.
right. What's going on next?
All right, next up, we have got a little bit of a twist in the music. The track Beethoven Havoc takes place about halfway through the film when Apocalypse hijacks Xavier's mind to disarm the nations of the world. And you'll notice that this one carries a bit of a familiar tune in that the music of the scene is Beethoven's Ninth, which then morphs into the original score that is based on that to fit the scene. It's an interesting experiment, and I think it works out pretty well. Let's take a listen.
Saying it was John Ottman who did this, right?
Yeah, correct.
John Ottman. All right. He took Apocalypse to heart. Holy crap.
Like I said, just beefed up beyond anyone's wildest imagination. Which, honestly, musically, thinking back on the X-Men series, his contributions were adequate, but I wouldn't, pick him out of the lineup to be like, yes, this is what I think of. Now this is what I think of when I think X-Men music, so.
Oh wow, man, this soundtrack is like fire. Damn.
Oh, thank you for that segue. For our last track of the day is Like a Fire. Not that Pink song that premiered with Alice in Wonderland.
Like a fire?
Just like fire! No.
I'm burning up.
Yeah. No, this one is from the finale in the movie where a surprise character makes a final confrontation with Apocalypse. And what I like about this track is that it both reintroduces the Hope theme from Days of Future Past for Xavier and utilizes Ottman's actual X-Men theme that you always hear at the beginning of the movie, the da ba da 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 da, and meshes that together with the Apocalypse sound to make a really interesting final showdown track.
Is there a part where they go, party, party, in this at all?
They might have touched upon that in early stages of the draft, but they just didn't feel it was working.
All right. Can't combine that many sounds, I guess.
No, not so much. And press play.
These are some sick clips, Skylar.
Yeah, I'm sorry it takes like a minute for all of them to encapsulate what's great about him, but boy, does it do some encapsulating.
Yes. Whoa, I'm
So
like,
this
I'm listening.
one, when this one broke into like the original score sort of theme song part, there were definitely chills for
Yeah,
that. It
little
was
little
good.
little chills, little dun, da da
Yeah,
da
they're
da
like, ooh, that was good. Yep, that part that was good.
You're like,
Yeah.
yeah, that wasn't even. It's like you aren't even trying, John Ottman. You're just like, all right, now put in the X-Men theme. Got these
Yeah,
fuckers
put in
good.
this thing I did like 10 years ago. Let's do that.
And let's just sprinkle some of that Fuels magic on there. Yep, there we go.
Can we get that choir back in here? No? All right. Well, I'll work without him.
Okay. Yeah. Now build it up. So good.
John, and you deserve a raise. A raise to the heavens.
Yeah. Keep doing stuff like this. We like it. We like it a lot.
To your own music.
Yes, right. Oh man, no. Check this soundtrack out when you get the chance. You get the full Apocalypse theme in the track Apocalypse. You get the continuation of the opening scene in Pyramid Collapse. You get that sing song that Magneto does to his daughter. It's all good stuff.
I just want every time I walk into the room to just have X-Men Apocalypse something playing because it just makes everything more badass. I'll adjust my walking stance or my flow to the music, but if it's like the Apocalypse one, it's like back straight. Somebody help me home. It's like, yeah, that's right. I just walked into a room.
This score makes us all better.
Any more music? I want more music. Do you have more?
Not at this time. I'm sorry.
Ah, disappointing.
Do not become addicted to music.
That's a different movie.
I know.
You have to do something else like no more notes, no more melodies, no more songs.
Well done. Well done.
See? All right. You gotta work with what you're given.
Right.
But what I'm given is some beautiful science discussion topics. Isn't that right, Grantifer?
Oh yeah, we got some fun stuff to talk about today. I think at least, but I'm a huge nerd, so me. So
I'm a huge nerd. Like you're
thing
the
we're going
only
to talk
nerd.
about is at the end. The fairly nerdy podcast. So, but anyway, towards the end of the movie, we're going to talk about Magneto doing crazy shit with Earth's magnetic field. So fun times.
What is he doing?
From the looks of it, granted, I haven't seen this movie since it came out, but from the looks of it, he's just increasing the strength of magnetic field by like several thousand times. The other option that he could be doing is that he's just channeling his energy through Earth's magnetic field to pull metal towards it, but I don't think this is as likely. Just as of things we saw. If you were to increase Earth's magnetic by that extreme amount, pretty much all life as we know it would just end. It would be over for all of us. So
Why?
obviously that doesn't happen. So for one thing, water is paramagnetic, and we do get a little bit, but all water would levitate and float off towards like one or the other and just freeze. So it'd be bad news for all of us. The other thing is that magnetism is part of the electromagnetic force, and our brains are basically electric wires, so they would stop working, our bodies would stop working, we would die. It'd be bad. So those are the two big reasons, but also the magnetic field is really important for the Earth's weather, and so interestingly, I didn't know this, but I read this. every 250,000 years or so, Earth's magnetic field just spontaneously flips. So the North Pole and South Pole magnetically flip flop, and this is happens at about the same times that all the ice ages in Earth's history have happened. So major weather changes are the result of messing with Earth's magnetic field. So that could all be a problem.
Are we due?
So yeah, I mean no, because we still have a couple, like thousands of years before that would spontaneously happen again. So
Oh, okay.
not too worried about it.
Uh,
We'll be long gone by then. It's the same reason why we shouldn't worry about the sun exploding and killing us, because that's several billion years in the future.
Grant, I'm gonna probably have to ask you to turn your camera off or something because you're breaking out a shit ton.
Oh, sorry. There you
Just
go. Is it working
Yeah.
better?
Uh,
Okay. Maybe. Maybe not.
hello. Dexter.
Hmm.
I
Is it
think we've
not
lost.
working anymore?
I think we've lost Mauer.
I can still hear you. Oh, we've lost Mauer?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he is frozen. So good. So it's not me. It's Mauer messing up. So how's it going?
Oh, not too bad. Yourself?
Not too bad. Not too bad. A little bored because it's summer. I don't really have a whole lot to do.
Right. I'm currently between jobs, so I'm very much in the same boat in that regard.
Oh yeah. Are you still in Mankato, or did you move somewhere?
I'm up in Maplewood, northeast
Oh,
Twin Cities. Yeah.
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 Fun stuff.
I guess so, yeah.
Probably more fun than Mankato.
Yeah, kind of wear out of Mankato, so. Oh, I guess he randomly lost internet.
Great. I randomly lost internet. Yep. He sure did.
Wow.
That's certainly going to make this more difficult
Yeah, that
to finish this podcast.
right.
Well, I suppose since isn't this just like according to some server on Google Hangouts that Mauer could access later since it is still live? So like we could keep going without Mauer.
I think so, yeah. Let's see. Okay, he's off the...
Still
Okay,
says we're live, so
yeah. And he said, just give me a minute, so I'm guessing he's restarting.
okay. It's on a roll. Talking about magnets and shit.
Maybe the talk of magnets, like, fucked his internet up. Magnet talk.
The science section is full of magnets. When I talk about telepathy, I'm going to talk about magnets too. It's
Shit.
fun times.
Okay, so looks like we're welcome to continue the discussion. So, all right, talking about some magnets.
All right. Well, I kind of lost my train of thought on the Magneto thing, so I guess I'll just kind of conclude with that one. That just based off Magneto's powers, it looks like what he's doing is possible, but they just kind of cut out many of the more negative effects that would have also happened as a result of him doing that, just for the sake of like making a cool looking scene. So, you know, kind of, you know, if Magneto were a real person with that much power, he could probably do that, but it would cause a lot more other shit than just things aligning on the magnetic field lines like you see in the movie.
Right.
All right,
Basic.
so moving on to the next one. Yeah. Next one is Quicksilver jamming out. So obviously a big part of Quicksilver in his scenes is that he listens to music on his little Walkman thing that he's got. And so Maurer, who's no longer here, was curious about how his Walkman would have to work for that to be a thing. And I have to tell you that a normal Walkman will not be able to do this, but thankfully, according to the comics, it's not even really a Walkman. It's a weird government-issued audio device that he stole from like the Pentagon or something. So there's your Quicksilver fun fact of the day. So it has the ability to run at super high speeds without blowing up on his hip. So that's good. The other things with him running around and listening to music is since he has his headphones on and they're part of his body, so they're part of his system, there's no need to worry about any sort of Doppler effects or anything like that. So the sound isn't being distorted. It just has to, the player has to speed up because he's moving faster and not necessarily because the sound waves are loose or compressing or anything like that. And there's a video about this, except they do it for Days of Future Past and not Apocalypse, but basically the same thing. And they do the math, and his player has to run something like 1,800 times as fast for him to be able to process the music. So they like calculate the amount of time he has to save Magneto and Professor X in that scene, and it's like 0.05 seconds, but the scene lasts for 110 seconds. And so to hear that amount of music and that amount of time, 1,800 times as fast. And then everybody just kind of assumes that Quicksilver is like the Flash and he can process things at a ridiculous